All right, I think we're live. Yep, we are live. Very cool. Let me also check some stuff out. Make sure I can actually see comments and stuff like that, because that would be bad to I guess be a bad host. And we're gonna get started on workout stuff today. Yesterday was a crazy stream. I'm not sure what to expect today. I wouldn't count on the algorithm doing things twice, but you never know. Either way, I'm gonna be focusing on just doing some deving, doing some refactors that I have in mind. The occlusal stuff is cool that it's working, but now I really want to work on making these bounding boxes do more than just occluding or hiding or disabling rendering. I want to do something a bit more than that. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, sweet. Okay, I think I have everything set up here, so I can just start working. Sweet. And I kind of want to pull up oh, that's from my laptop. Why does that have sound? I'm not sure if you heard that. That was very weird, because I was not expecting to hear Unity or Windows sounds from my computer. All right. Anyways, so let me actually, before we get into this, let me find. Did I not commit any of the work I did yesterday? That would be kind of scary if I didn't do that. So I want to do a couple of things before we jump too much into this. There's a general to-do I have in mind that I want to just kind of outline the stuff I want to do today. I found a swap file by the name. Yeah, we're gonna edit it anyways, I don't care. Hey, what you working on? So I'm gonna be working on some lighting stuff today. So yesterday I was working on this occlusion system of just hiding, basically having the level be broken up into chunks and then disabling rendering on it, and that's fine. It works good now. Now the next thing I want to work on is juicing our lighting system. Yeah, you can see it here working. Yeah, things that are not in view do not get rendered, and then whatever. So I mentioned yesterday that I made my own lighting pipeline in Unity just to have a lot of control and have some interesting effects happen. But our lighting system is a bit limited. Right now I only support directional lights and point lights. And maybe that's fine for most cases. But there's another element to this that I want to add to make it more dynamic. So, and I think part of it would be better. It would be better to kind of showcase this with some actual visual examples of this. But basically, we have the level broken up. A level is broken up into these bounds, and right now they just kind of hide the environment. What I want to do is refactor our lighting system so that not only can we change the so not only we can change what's rendered, we can also change what directional light is being activated, because there's some places where you want to have one directional light angled one way and you want to have a directional light angled another way. And right now it doesn't do that. Right now we have like a defined sun, and it's just there, and it's just stuck there. Like the sun's gonna be where it's placed, and it's not gonna change beyond that. And in most cases that's fine, but once you want to start doing some interesting lighting effects, then you might want to have the sun be sun, quote unquote, be positioned in different places. And we kind of have something like this where we have these different areas where the fog changes colors. So we almost already have some kind of precedence for this. Now it's just a matter of having some other kind of bound to indicate when a certain sun source should be activated. So that's one thing. Let me go on YouTube real quick. There's a great video about lighting and cinematography, and it has some really cool examples. But the cool thing about having our own lighting system is that we can implement weird and wacky light sources that that Unity doesn't support out the box. Let me see if I can find it. There's a really good video about this, and I can't send. Here we go.
Step number 2 is light.
No, that's not it. Tragic. If I can find it in 5 seconds, I'm going to show you the cool example that came to mind. It's from Blade Runner, but no, I want to see watched. Recently uploaded, no, watched. Here we go. No, when did I watch that? I never recalled watching this. And no more results. Wow. What if I just type in cinematography? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm gonna full screen this for you guys. So here, right? Like, for example, there is this cool. Okay, first of all, caustics are cool. I'd love to try implementing some caustics. But yeah, there's some scenes where, like for example, here, maybe we might want to have the sun be positioned one way, but then in a scene like this, we want to have like a directional light that, or basically a sun that's in a different angle. And as a developer, I want to give myself more tools to kind of create cool, interesting lighting scenarios like this that maybe aren't super accurate to reality, but visually look cool. So that's one idea. There's also the idea of having just different types of light sources. So you saw over here. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. There's like here we go. So over here we have like all these these light sources that are just like lines. So I kind of want to implement something like that where you just have a light source that's just lines, and you're gonna define it. So we can have some other odd stuff like that. It's not that crazy. We already have like light sources that are defined by points, and we can kind of extrapolate that to lines, and it wouldn't be that crazy. And we of course do more stuff like quads or I don't know, other things like that. I just want to give myself more tools for crafting interesting levels, visually interesting levels. But the directional light is definitely the most important thing, because in this scene, the most important thing is the shadows that are casted. And right now in the way I have the lighting system implemented, only directional lights support shadows for reasons. Maybe not necessarily good reasons, but reasons nonetheless. So yeah, so there's a couple ways we can go about implementing this. So as you see here, we have these boxes of different colors. We have these 3 boxes. This one here, and this one here. And they all correspond to different fogs, where if the player enters there, a fog of this color would be activated. And it's not immediate, it kind of lerps to it. And they're called fog zones. So maybe instead of tying this to the bounding box stuff we implemented, I could just implement another component like, I don't know, a light trigger or something. And this light trigger will activate a current directional light and set the current properties of it. We have this cozy light settings, which has a directional light transform and everything. I almost feel inclined to combine this class with this class so that you can just activate one. Let me take a look at the script. So this is our cozy sunlight. So this bad boy has so he has a singleton. We make it a singleton, quote unquote, because we assume there's only ever going to be one. And then we have this load shadow function that's called in different places. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because different zones change. So in the game, so let's talk about this a little bit, just for my own understanding as well. What, really? Why are you using such an old monitor? For what reason? Or is it fake? It's real. It's very real. It's very real. And we use it, I don't know, because it's fun. It's different. I don't know, I spend so many hours of my day working with a normal monitor. This is a nice break from it. And surprisingly, not so bad to work with. Why use a nice CRT when you have a nice monitor on the left, brother? Because CRTs are peak. CRTs are peak, dog. You'd be surprised. This is not even the nice monitor. I actually had a nicer monitor that was here, that's sitting over there. 144 hertz. It's not OLED, but it's a very high quality. But you can't beat peak, brother. Reasons making on an old PC or PC specs is good, just monitor and keyboard. Yeah, just peripherals. Just peripherals. I'm not that hardcore enough to actually go all the way towards using old hardware. I still have the simple niceties of modern stuff and modern operating systems. Just old peripherals. What engine are you using? Are you just using libraries? I'm using Unity engine right now. For my personal engine I'm working on, I'm using what am I using actually? For my personal engine, I'm using, how much RAM do I have? Oh, we're good on utilization. I'll just do it. Let's see if this time I can actually open up my engine this time. Now that I actually updated my NVIDIA drivers. So what are we using for this guy? There's another game project I'm working on. Libs. So I'm using the standard OpenGL stuff, GLAD, GLFW, MathFoo for all the math classes like structs, like vectors and whatnot. Though low key, I kind of want to get rid of MathFoo and implement my own math library just to learn about vector AVX. Because I feel like these math structures like vector 3s and whatnot and would be like the best candidates for this. Would be the best candidates for this kind of learning AVX and intrinsics. And here we go. My engine actually works this time. Beautiful. Beautiful. See, it's all Vim motioned and everything, and I can select tiles, I can place them around, I can even move things in the foreground, and then move things to the background. And then even select other stuff. We even have undo redo happening. Yeah, like this background. We can move this bad boy back. Here we go. Place him over there. And then move this guy back a little bit as well. Whatever. And then press play and oh snap, we're moving. Moving and moving. I need to fix some stuff though, but you get the idea. Those 20 top buttons on the keyboard, these are not mapped to anything. This is just something IBM Model M has. But they're not actually mapped to anything. I need to do something with it because I feel like I'm wasting. I don't know what's the point of having this fancy keyboard if I'm not going to utilize all the cool buttons. Lock warning, shadow settings are null. Yeah, this is null. These guys are cool. Okay, we're just gonna make, I think the best place to go here is just start implementing stuff. Are you self-taught? Yeah, so I mean, game development is largely self-taught. I started programming in middle school. I wanted to make a game, and I googled how to make a game, and they popped up C++, and I tried that, and I learned the basics of programming through using C++, but I realized I never got to graphics APIs or anything like that. And then from there, and I'm going to show my PC specs, or at least I'll try to. I don't know if I have what, NVTop. You can see my GPU. But whatchamacallit. But yeah, I switched to Game Maker because that was like super easier to get something visually happening and displaying stuff. And I did that for a long time. Then I went to uni, and I studied computer science and switched to IT because that was easier. And then I only really started learning how to do proper C# and just programming in general when I got my second real job. My first real job, I started learning how to do like front end, back end stuff, designing REST APIs, but actually learning good software engineering principles and techniques and experience, that largely came from work, and then like from reading and working on projects of my own time to try to apply it. Light volume, let's say that. That seems like a misleading term. Also, the UI isn't tall enough to give me the option to create new. That's a little tragic. That's a little tragic. It's okay. We have these fog zones though. So they're in features, fog zones. Did I really just throw it in here? And I'd even put it into lighting? Brother. Alright, we'll make a new script, I guess. This feels so... We're not doing this. We're not going to do this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go in... Yeah. We're going to go here. This isn't Windows? Yeah, it's Linux. We're running Linux. As long as it's 60 FPS. Hey, man. 60 FPS is too much, man. That's actually too much. People are spoiled. People are spoiled, man. All we need, really, is just 30 FPS on a good day. Who needs that, man? I gotta say, there's some things about the CRT monitor that's cooler than normal monitors, because it's like, hey, easy access to your features, right? I just gotta access the dial, and look at this. There's a green display option. I can just turn off all colors because we don't need colors. Why would you need colors, dog? Colors are for suckers. Sometimes you just need to operate like this, man. Oh man. I will say though, this is not bad actually. This is really not that bad. But I think part of it is just due to my workflow being super, like, very much everything I do is very focused on single screen focus. So this works pretty good for me. Oh, there's still a lot here. Oh, it's not that much. Okay. Yeah, the fog zone is there. I guess. Lighting, though I'd probably want to make this actually part of. Cool. Recompiling scripts, thank you. Nice cube, man, thank you. Gotta love the cubes. Entering computer science, it looks so hard. Take Calc 1 first semester right now for CS. Taking Calc 1? Hey, you're better than me. Calc 1 is what made me drop CS for IT. I remember distinctly. I remember there's a moment when I knew this is not for me, or at least I can't learn this way. And it was like, I did my first exam and I was like, all right, I kind of didn't do great on it. I want to do better next time. We're going to study hard, right? But I stopped checking into these lectures and doing this stuff. I was like, I'm doing the homework on my own and I'm studying on my own and things are kind of coming along, right? And there's a part where I was like, the end of the semester is coming along soon, but I still haven't done exam 2 yet. When is that going to happen? And I started checking, and it turns out, oh, exam 3 is next week, or the finals is next week. What happened to exam 2? Oh, 2 and 3 happened already? Oh, brother. And I remember just sitting down and being like, all right. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in my life during that semester, but that was like, all right, we need to reevaluate our life here. I switched from CS to IT. Within the first semester, I learned skills that were immediately helpful for getting me a job in my field. And my stress levels just went down. I went from being like, oh, you don't have enough math credits to, oh, you're overqualified. You have too much math credits. And it's still same access to most of the same jobs. It was the absolute win for me, man. I don't know what to say. That was just the absolute win. Yeah, here we go. But I don't know. Every program is different, right? People have different starting zones, different levels of skill. And I eventually had to go back and start learning a lot of this stuff. Like, even after I started working professionally, I ended up getting like paying for like a tutor to meet with me like every week so I can go through linear algebra and matrices and get better at it. Or at least get familiar with some of this stuff, because I think a lot of the big issues is just terminology. Like, I always pull up this graph, but it's such a good graph. Let me find it real quick. What? Let me go to Miro real quick. I cannot escape going to Miro. Okay, I think it's in this one. Let's see. There's a bunch of stuff I have here. Nope, not this one. It's in my scratch space one. Yeah, here we go. So there's like 3 zones we kind of occupy, where there's things I don't know that I don't know. Then there's things I know that I don't know, and then there's the things I know. Right? And I feel like the biggest barrier for growth lies between this boundary here, between the things I don't know, and the things I know I don't. Like, if you know that you don't know what graphics APIs are and how to use them, at the very least, you know that if you want to do that, if you want to have a thing on a screen and do some cool effects, you should learn about graphics APIs like OpenGL and stuff. But if you don't even have a concept of what a graphic API is or what they do or why they're needed, then brother, until like someone kind of enlightens you or you stumble upon that knowledge, there's kind of like a hard limit in what you can do and possibly explore. And that's why I kind of feel like for a long period of my time, I kind of stagnated a lot as a programmer. I mean, I wasn't trying to be a programmer. I was just trying to make games. But I stagnated a lot in a lot of these different fields because I didn't know this stuff. I remember in middle school, me and my friend were both learning C++ and we wanted to code together. And like, we didn't know how to collaborate. Like, we didn't have an understanding of Git or source control or any of this stuff. So like, you know, we tried to do stuff, but it wasn't great. And because we didn't know about this stuff, we didn't know there's a way you can actually collaborate with people in code. So, yeah. So yeah, that's why I like a lot of the stuff. Even if I don't fully remember everything correctly, at the very least, I got a survey of the things that I don't know. And should the need arise or I encounter a problem, I can at least have this domain of knowledge to draw upon to be like, all right, maybe I should investigate this or that. And that's kind of the part of university. Like a lot of people say like uni is bad or is not helpful for programming, and it's kind of true in some sense because a lot of practical knowledge is just not going to come from university. That only really comes from application, programming, doing that kind of stuff. There's a lot of people who are way smarter at me at programming who don't have any uni experience. But at the very least, through university, I at least started expanding my understanding of just some of the things in the landscape. Either directly from the classes or just from the people. Because networking is a very valuable thing. Of like education. So trigger collider events. Yeah, I'm sorry I don't mean to go on a whole little tangent there, but I mean, I don't know, that's kind of the whole point, right? But yeah, it's good to see that you're in uni and you're doing your Calc 1 and grinding, and I hope you make it through it, man. I hope you do better than I did, man. I'll tell you what, I hope you do better than I did. That's for sure. Don't want to do... Is there even a point to doing a null coalescent operator? I don't think so. Actually, what am I doing? There we go. No, I still have to do game object. It's not assumed. Hey, it's good to see you again. Yo said hi. Yeah, I see you. It's good to see you. Also, what's up, Morgan? It's good to see you too. Also, what's up, Otavio? How do you see CS versus comp English versus soft English? Okay, you're gonna have to help me out, Otavio. I'm committing to that. So you mentioned three things. You said there's CS, then there's comp English, and then there's soft English. So CS, I'm assuming, is computer science. And when you say comp English, is it like technical writing? Like, is that what you're talking about? And then soft English, like literature? Oh, computer engineering versus software engineering. Said hi. Hey, Mosca. Moflux said hi. Yep. Hi. It's good to see you guys. Computer engineering versus software engineering. I mean, they're just different fields fundamentally. You're operating at different levels. Like, to my understanding, computer engineering is all about the hardware kind of thing. So like, you're more concerned about, like, your foundations are going to be initially with like understanding the foundations of what make computers work. So like, you're going to be learning about logic gates and all that kind of stuff. And then kind of like how stuff starts off simple and like factorial, but then they grow in complexity and scale. You go from like understanding logic gates to start making basic units that do specific things. And then from there, it kind of boils into like, all right, what is the foundations of a computer? So you start looking at things like a Harvard architecture, architect for a computer, and how you start building instruction sets, and then what are the implications of these kind of instruction sets and that kind of stuff. Like, you think at that lower level, and then of course there's like the physical side of things too. So, you know, you probably want to start working with like, you probably end up working with like FPGAs and all that kind of stuff. FPGAs. Whereas like software engineering, like, I feel like good software engineers are also cognizant of a lot of these different things, or at least some of these different things. But a lot of this kind of stuff is more like, in some sense, kind of abstracted, which is kind of, in some sense, kind of sad, but it's a whole thing. What are you working on? Working on a game, man. I'll show you in a second. Hey, bro, can you hack the CCTV that's still in my house, please? Oh, brother. I don't know nothing about no CCTVs. All I know is my CRT and game devin. Yeah, but software engineering is much more like, it's not only, I mean, there's the simple stuff of like data structures and algorithms and that kind of stuff. There's that kind of things that are, you know, everyone talks about. And then like once you start working, and you're probably gonna have to learn about OOP and some other methodologies too, like functional programming or reactive programming, and a bunch of other paradigms people have for organizing and dealing with complexity. Because a lot of this stuff, like these concepts like OOP and functional and reactive and all this kind of stuff, are just they're like man-made structures, like intellectual structures, just to deal with the complexity of programs. They're not necessarily the most optimal way to write a program. It's just like in some way, they're a compromise we make with peak performance to manage complexity and communication barriers with people. Related to this, there's this whole idea of Conway's Law, which kind of goes into more of this compromise that's made from different programming paradigms that are introduced. And yeah, like software engineering is like this layer above things, and you start dealing less with actual physical problems with the hardware, and you start dealing with more like intellectual problems in a weird way. That keyboard is so satisfying. I'm glad, man. What language is this? Oh, right now I'm just explaining stuff, but I'm normally using C# for Unity stuff. I mean, you kind of have to, unless we go into unmanaged world, in which case we kind of pretend we're using C++. Or no, not unmanaged, unsafe, my bad. And doing a bunch of fixed pointers, fun stuff. But it's okay, we're not doing that. What do we need? We also need a collider. I'm going to use a box collider for this. I thought it was annoying at first, but I changed my mind over time. Oh, really? I'm from Brazil. Here it feels like it's kind of interchangeable in the market because there are fewer people highly capacitated. That's the reason I'm asking. Interesting. It's kind of interchangeable in the market. I mean, yeah, honestly, I feel like a lot of this stuff, this line that divides them are kind of in between. Because like, yeah, we said software is completely independent of this stuff, usually. But then if you're doing high performance software, then you start learning about things called AVX instructions and intrinsics. And these are specific instructions you can do that are specific to the architecture of your computer. So it's not like you can just write this and it's going to work everywhere. They're tied to a specific architecture. So it kind of limits what you can do. But because you know what architecture you're targeting, which is like information on this side, you can do very powerful things. So it's very, this is kind of blurry. This is just kind of the delineation I kind of see happen within university in my experience. But honestly, I feel like either discipline has to know stuff about the other discipline at some fundamental level. Hey, thanks, Jay. I'm glad you dig the CRT. How hard is it to fix bugs in the game? Yeah, it really depends, like Sloppy said, or Sloopy said. It really depends on the bug. Yeah, because bugs happen at different levels. Like there's... Oh my... I'm sorry, guys, but there's like a bunch of different... Like at least, even within Unity specifically, there's different classes of bugs that can happen. Just for like Unity. So like there can be like... There can be issues due to graphics APIs and platforms. So an example of this is that this game, there's this cool animation that plays when you die. I'm not sure if it's working right now, but it works perfectly fine on like Windows and Linux builds. But when I play this game on Newgrounds on WebGL, it breaks, and it's because for whatever reason there's certain things that WebGL just doesn't work well with that other platforms seem to work with. So that's like one class of bug where it's okay, it's something weird within the graphics APIs, and life is sad and bad because we have these issues that we can't always fix. So yeah, if I go and jump into the water, you're gonna see this big flicker of black. Yeah, that shouldn't happen. There's actually a fancy animation that plays. It's just that graphics APIs are weird and finagly. So there's that kind of class of bugs where it's like APIs and hardware. There's other class of just skill issue where it's you did something wrong in your code and you need to figure out what you did wrong. And then this is when you start becoming a detective to a crime scene that you committed. Like you're a detective to a crime that you're committed. You're trying to figure out, what did you do? Like, I know I killed someone. How did I kill them? But, yeah. So there's that one class of bugs, of skill issues, of code that you did wrong. And to debug that, there's a bunch of different things. Like if it's a performance issue, you use like analyzers or analysis tools or profilers to see, okay, what is taking up so much time? That's like a performance bug. In fact, that's a different class of different class of bugs. There's performance bugs where your code your game isn't running as fast as it should be. So you start doing analysis and profilers to find out where in your code is a slowdown happening and how do you fix it. The skill issues is, okay, you're probably getting some exception of some kind, whether it be like NREs, or that's the most common one, but you can get a bunch of different types of them. And this comes down to, okay, how well did I make it easy for myself to find out what the bug is? Did I add custom exceptions so I can know exactly what's triggering this bug? If not, you might have to use debuggers to go frame by frame and inspect data values or print stuff out. In the worst case scenario, like, I don't know, that's how you do, man. Have I tried Emacs? How old are you, man? You speak better than me, and I'm 34 years old. Platform engineer dev. I'm 27, man. But I think that's like, I think I mentioned before, but I feel like I'm not that great of a programmer. It's just that I feel like I get hard carried by communication skills. I mean, I think I mentioned yesterday that like most of my jobs I got hired for, I was super underqualified for, but it's amazing how, I remember even during the interviews, there's a bunch of times where I said, I don't know this thing you're asking me about, but hey, can you like explain it for me? And we just go through that. It's amazing, man. Play the game? Sure thing. I'll play some of the game right now. Have I tried Emacs though? I have not tried Emacs. I've already went through the Vim hole and I've already paid that cost. I'm kind of scared to do some Emacs. Maybe it might be better, but maybe I should remain ignorant of it. Yeah, this is the game. This is a test scene I'm using right now just to test out some lighting mechanics, some occlusion culling system stuff, so that we can fix some optimization bugs we had with from the prototype I published. Yeah, I mean, this is the game right now as it stands. And then there's some boss fights, but right now we're testing the basics. Sorry, I'm glad my setup hurts your eyes, Doc. Can you show what did you make? Yeah, I'm showing it right now. What language are you writing right now? C#. I got a job as a developer a few years back, basically saying I don't know much, but I'm willing to learn, and I ain't afraid to ask. Yeah, communication is super key. Communication is super duper key. There's a book called The Mythical Man Month. I'm sorry, like I feel like every time I'm sorry, because I feel like I don't, like, we want to do programming and we want to, like, I want to show like the game stuff, but I feel like I get turned into, like, you ask things that activate like an NPC dialogue within me, and I just have to give a lecture. But like, you'll start realizing in professional programming that the biggest cost is communication cost. Like, communication is the biggest bottleneck within programming, commercial programming. And because of this cost, you have things emerge. Like we talked about down here, how we have these kind of different programming paradigms that exist that don't necessarily make your code better. In fact, a lot of times it might make it worse, but it helps mitigate this communication cost. And that's where Conway's law comes in and all that kind of stuff. But it's also the big reason why there's this idea of non-linearity when it comes to like hiring software engineers. Because you might have one software engineer and you'll have the productivity of one guy. But if you have like two software engineers working on like very close related things, you're not going to have like a 2x improvement in most cases. A lot of times maybe it's like 1.9 or 1.8, but there's like a little bit of a divot that happens across both individuals because they have to pay this cost of communication, usually not only onboarding, but even asking about things that they're coordinating and working on. And as you add more people to your team, the less this efficiency kind of crops up. So, yeah. It's kind of a big deal, man. It's kind of a big deal. And which is why, like, the better communicator you are, the more you offset that cost. Never entirely, but significantly. And a lot of times that's the most you can ask for. Do you know how to write binary? I mean, I know the binary system. Like, I know how to, like, convert from binary to decimal and decimal to binary. If you're asking, like, assembly code, no, never really do assembly code. I would like to learn it at some point. The closest I see is, like, maybe intrinsics, but even then, it's still C++ basically. If you want to add a boss fight from Undertale, who's your choice? Ooh. That's a good one. I like Asgore's battle. He was very impactful for me. Papyrus is fun. Of course, Sans is what genocide route one is notorious and everyone is aware of it. It's probably the coolest one. Yeah, but probably Asgore. I don't know why. I want to know why coding on it. It's good. It's fun. Different. Is it even good? Yeah, I enjoy it. And how to overcome skill plateau in programming. Maybe just do harder stuff, man. That's kind of what I do. Is like when I feel like I'm plateauing, I go, okay, what's something that's difficult, right? So like year one of me being a professional programmer, after 1 year, I was like, okay, my main thing was getting decent at C#, and I eventually got there, maybe 1.5 years. And I started getting a bit bored, and I was doing C# for my day job and for this game. Or not this game, a game previous to that, but it was like C# 24/7. So I was like, okay, I haven't really done much stuff in low level, and I want to try a language that's hard. So I was like, all right, we're gonna try Rust because I hear it's hard, and I tried that, and I was like, all right, cool, Rust is cool, but what's the next hardest thing? And I was like, all right, let's try writing a game engine in Rust. So I started learning about OpenGL and basic graphics APIs, and what I did, 1 second. Let me pull up the engine. No. I ended up making this little toy basic game engine, which was kind of a prototype of like some of the things I want to be able to do when I eventually work on stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. This is pretty rad, and we've learned some new things that I thought I was too dumb to learn. Sick. And now I feel like a little smarter. And then what's the next thing from there? And I was like, all right, let's learn C++ because I haven't actually done C++ things, and we're gonna try doing this game, rewriting this game engine in there, because I started having some issues with how Rust does things, and then you just go with there. You just keep doing stuff. How did you make character animations? They're sick. I use Asprite, so I do all my pixel art myself, and I have this program called Asprite, and this is where I do all my animations. Where's my do I not have run left? Let me find it. I thought I had an ace file, but I guess I don't, which kind of sucks. But we'll just use this guy, I guess. Yeah, we'll use this. This has 6 frames, and I think it's 128 by 128. I can't believe I don't have any ace files here. No, it is 64 by 64. What am I talking about? Yeah, this program is sick though. This is what I use for all my pixel art animation. Been doing this for years. It's my favorite. I think this last one. Yep, here we go. Pretty good application. I'm using Ubuntu, man. Simple Ubuntu. Is nuts. Lucky guy. Hey man, you can get it too. It's not that crazy. It's not too expensive, honestly. Like I got this for like $20. This for $20. Actually, I think like everything here for like $20. No, this was $50. $20 and then $20. Procedural gen is a big boss for me. Really? Yeah, I mean it's a bit hard, but even then it's not that crazy. So for not this game, but I had another game before this. Called Crimson Crown, and that game is procedurally generated. Here we go. Let me go to the Discord. I'd probably have to go high up in the Discord, or maybe I have to go on Instagram. I think I have it there for sure. But let me see if I can go up and find an old game update from Crimson Crown before I switch to Messy Mansion. 1 second, guys, and let me go. By the way, I post updates in games in the Discord, though I haven't done it in a while. Let's go up for a minute. I appreciate your patience. Okay, cool. So we had this game. So this is the game that I was working on called Crimson Crown. It's a top-down procedural generated dungeon crawler, quote unquote, roguelike. That was the game I was working on before this game, and I'm gonna revisit it. because this game is much more complicated than Messy Mansion is, mechanically speaking. But yeah, so you see how there's a map here and there's this stuff, and if you look at it, the foundations of this procedural generation is really just a graph theory. So you can see this algorithm I wrote, and you see how it's generating new levels based off of this. So like, if you know some basic tree structures or even just node structures, you'd be surprised by how much you can generate just from this kind of thing. Like just that plus dictionaries, and brother, you can do so much. Yes, I can't believe I keep forgetting. There's a bunch of cool stuff I've worked on that I completely forgot that I have. I just got reminded about this, and you can see like these pink things are like side branches, and then you can see how they're marked. There's some that are gonna have items, some that are boss rooms, some that are the end, some that are shops. It was cool. We're gonna get back to it. We're gonna get back to it eventually. And you can see the start of this game. It's kind of nostalgic, man. Kind of nostalgic. But yeah. Can you tell a bit about your setup, how you got the old school style OS, etc.? Okay, so the old style, this is just basic Linux. I'm using something called i3, which is a nice way to manage your Windows so that you don't have to like click and do things. Like you can access any part of your computer just through i3. It's very convenient. As far as the peripherals, everything I got here has been largely through this thing called Vintage Computer Festival. Happens every year, and you can find a bunch of cool computer stuff there for cheap. Especially if you go on the last day, people just want to get rid of stuff. So it's pretty sick. But yeah, aside from that, like I have another monitor there, or CRT there, and like old consoles, and that I just got from other monthly vintage festivals that are around my area. Or it's not around my area, but just like in the Midwest in general. Yeah, that's kind of the gist. I want to learn more about 100%. It's harder in 3D. How difficult is it to make a 4D game with a 3D perspective? I'm sorry, you lost me there, man. That's kind of crazy. Get a trackball. Complete the system. Hey, man. Oh, wait, what am I doing? I'm using this mouse. I have this IBM mouse. I should be using this guy. 2 buttons, no scroll wheel. Exactly how it was intended to be. That's all you need in life. That's all you need in life. What's up, B-Step? Is this Java C#? I forgot. What did I add here to this custom library? I have this whole event for on-trigger entered subject. There we go. Subject. Where x dot compare tag tags player. I see C#. I want to learn how to code. Just do it, man. All you gotta do is start Googling. That's like 90% of the job. At least that's how you get started. And then just surround yourself with people who are super knowledgeable. Like, I'm using something, so this structure here where I have this trigger, on trigger, enter subject, and then where, and then subscribe. This is something from something called UniRX, and it's part of this paradigm called reactive extensions, and I wouldn't have learned about this whole paradigm of reactive extensions without a coworker just bringing this up to me and being like, hey, this is really cool. Here's some code I did. Review it and then try it out. And I'm like, all right. I initially hated it, but then I was like, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff within this, and I'm gonna use this. We're gonna use this. It's pretty crazy how that works. Classes learn how to code. Honestly, I never use classes. If I'm gonna be honest with you, like and maybe there's different people who are motivated differently, but I usually start with just a project or some kind of goal. So like if I'm learning a language, I usually start with like an ASCII problem where I'm like, all right, I want to make, usually the project I go for is I want to make a game that's in ASCII, like no graphics APIs, nothing fancy. I just want to print ASCII to a screen terminal. So for example, a stream I did a while ago, or earlier this week I think, I wanted to learn Odin. Just for fun, I was like, you were gonna do something different. So the first thing I did in Odin was, okay, I want to just have a sine wave be printed onto the screen, and this was the project. Not great, but it's there, right? And just in doing this, I learned a bunch about Odin's syntax, about how to do unsafe stuff within Odin. I don't like the language, if I'm gonna be real with you, but starting with a simple goal, you start Googling and try to find everything else to get to that part, right? Like if you know you're gonna go from point A over a chasm to point B, then you start going, all right, let's start trying to find where we can get the planks to make a bridge, and then you just get into it. That's kind of how I operate, because I like to be working towards a goal. There's people who like to go, oh, I'm going to start reading the documentation and let's start understanding this language just by reading first. And then I'm going to do all this research before I write a single line of code. Maybe that works for some people. That does not work for me. I have to be doing this. Oh, it's Writer. Yeah, I'm using Writer. Hey, dude, how's it going? Good to see you, Jimmy. Is it Vimworth? Yeah, no. So it's Writer, but I'm using something called Idea Vim to have Vim motions on it. So Idea Vim is a plugin I use to have this cool Vim motions behavior. You know, quick navigations, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Writer. And then I use C-Line for C++ projects. Though sometimes, like, I like just using raw NeoVim. Just kick it. Do some raw NeoVim. No LSP. No IntelliSense. None of that stuff. Makes you feel like a man, you know? How much math do I know? I know a decent amount. Nothing crazy, though. Like, really, I think the most I'm super solid on is, like, trigonometry and then some basic linear algebra. And even then, it's not super strong. I know concept of calculus, like derivatives and whatnot, but if you ask me to do that, yikes, probably not. Yeah, but no, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Honestly, for a lot of game programming, and then there's 3D math. So like understanding things like cross products and dot products are super important. Dot products. I don't know, like I'm trying to think about stuff on demand right now. Like even for like this lighting pipeline I do, like most of it's driven by dot products. Like it's not too crazy. Hey Cozy, glad you're streaming. Hey, thank you Elijah. It's good to see you again as well. Is the default Vim lax? Honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not gonna act. I'm not gonna front like I know. I really don't know the difference between Vim and NeoVim. Like I think there's some basic stuff, like advanced extra features that NeoVim offers that Vim doesn't, and etc. But I can't give you a list of boom, boom, boom. NeoVim is better than, like, for example, like, I know the difference between NeoVim versus LunarVim. Like, there's a big difference. Like, there's a very big difference between those two. Like, you have an UI configuration. Like, you have a built-in LSP if you're doing, like, some kind of cargo thing or JavaScript or whatever. Like, okay, I can see the difference between LunarVim to NeoVim. Not as much from NeoVim to Vim. Someone probably knows the difference. I'm not gonna even try to pretend. But I want to start from zero. How much time it takes to have a decent job, like 1,000, 1,500? A best start of. I don't even know, man. I don't even know. Because honestly, like, I feel like most of my career has been, I'm not even gonna say luck. I feel like I've been just blessed. Like, things that shouldn't happened. You know, and I can only say, like, yeah, like, that's the only, I can only say, like, God gave me that opportunity, because, like, most of the jobs I entered into for interviews, I felt like I bombed and I shouldn't have gotten it, and somehow, some way, I ended up getting a call back and offer letters and stuff like that. But yeah, outside of that, it takes a long time, man. Like, I've been programming since middle school, but I only got really good only, like, the past 4 or 5 years. I think it's going to really depend on who you surround yourself with. If you can find a mentor, that's great. But even better is a mentor who's, like, actually working alongside you with stuff. That'd be my biggest go-to, because, like, most of my career was, like, super, like, most of my programming life has been kind of this. And only when I started working along people who are very knowledgeable did it start growing like this. And beyond that, the best advice I can give is do a bunch of projects and do projects frequently. Why do I have this? Why is this not a const? These things should be consts. Or capitalized. Or whatever. Best code editor in your opinion? SQL. Don't try to get a job in game dev. Yeah, game dev is rough, dude. Game dev is rough. I do game dev for fun. It wouldn't be fun if I had financial pressures related to this. I can tell you that much. It's a directional okay, we have some considerations to make about how we're going to implement this feature, because maybe you just keep it simple. Because we can have the idea of, like, a default light source, and then we enter the box, you do an override on it. But once you leave the box and there's no other thing, then we just default back to the default. Or we can have the thing where, no, we only activate the explicit one you're in, and you have to manage every single place the player can go to make sure the correct light source is activated. Let me also get rid of this stuff, because we don't need it as much. Don't need this as much. We're gonna, yeah, we need this. Player camera control, don't need that as much. You're coding on a CRT? Of course, brother. Of course, Deb. Humanity, our forefathers have written all that we use, or most of what we used, on a setup like this. This is how humanity did it for the longest time. We must reject modernity, reject 4K resolutions, embrace 60p or 640 by 480. I don't even have to do 640. I can do 800 by 600, but I just choose not to. This is a conscious choice at this point. Most? What do you mean pixels? You think that Aya gonna partially stole the dev jobs? What's Aya? Oh, AI? Not really. Like, like they want to do that, but the thing is, AI is very much kind of a liability when it comes to things that are not basic and simple. And what I mean by that is that, like, think about what data AI is trained on. It's trained usually not on proprietary code, but usually on open source stuff and on things that are widely available. So, you know, very common projects, it's going to be really good at doing that. But once you start asking it to do very weird or unique or odd stuff, or things that it just never been exposed to, then it starts kind of falling apart. Like, I used to try using Copilot, and I stopped using it because it would make things that looks correct, but was actually wrong. And instead of making programming faster, it just kind of slowed me down. And became kind of a liability. And I've tried using it in educational context, but even then, even if it gives you an answer that's correct, you don't know why it's correct. And usually it's not super great at explaining it. It can explain it in a tone that sounds very convincing, but it's not the same as like going through the documentation, right? Or looking at other people's experiences. And better, imagine 5 years from now. There's kind of a limit to it though. Because like the improvements per cost, that's an important thing, is kind of limited. I'm sure it's going to get better, but the thing is there's certain problem spaces like coding where it's very much dependent on context. Like maybe like for AI, the place where I can see it being very useful is probably like AIs that are local on your machine that have access to your code base and can work with it. Load map, save map. Yeah, we have sunlight, and then we have this. Yeah, we have this load shadow map to the cozy sunlight because there's only one instance because it's singleton. And then cozy light config. But I don't know, we'll see what happens in the future because I know there's been some big improvements on it, but there's a normal curve per cost. Try AI is great at casual projects. Yeah, casual projects, but as soon as it becomes very specific, or worse, if you're working on a like, let's say for work, like let's say your company has a proprietary thing that they have a whatchamacallit, they have not a license to, what's that term when you're the inventor of something and you have exclusive rights to use it for, I forgot the name of it. Bro's job. Already did with most 2D artists. Yeah, it sucks for 2D artists, man. It really does. To the question above me, they were asking why most people in CS are unemployed. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There's kind of a weird correction because like when you think about programming, right? A lot of the connotation is like, oh, work-life balance and big pay and, you know, 4-hour lunch breaks and stuff like that, right? And it has like this kind of and there's like maybe like, oh, there's kind of status to it. But that wasn't always the case. Like, programming used to be this underpaid, not glamorous, like almost stigmatized, lame thing that people just kind of like, we're about it. So the people who are doing programming were the people who are just super about it. Like, they're super about it, right? That was their thing. Like, even if it didn't have a lot of the perks, like they just did it for the love of the game, man. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of started to trend back to that. Like, there's this market correction that's happening where, okay, the programming jobs are not as abundant or not as needed, and it sucks. There's a big surplus of people, but there's also quite a lot of people who spec'd into it, largely for those like intentions, to my understanding. But then, I know this from people I know individually, right? But once you get rid of like those factors of like the the pay or the glamour or whatever, like they don't really, like they dip to something else, right? It kind of sucks, but on the flip side, it's like the people who are going to be super skillful are the people who actually dig programming and are willing to like, who just want to learn more and get better at it always. Because there's a certain level of expertise that's just not replaceable from AI. Is that a real? It is a real CRT, baby. It's a real CRT. Look at this. We got these options for brightness control. I can turn on the green filter. That's for some reason there. It's all CRT, no LCD or LED. Yeah, cozy vibes and just different. Keep in mind, guys, I work in Unity professionally for like 8 hours a day. And to come home and spend another 4 hours programming within Unity with the same peripherals, like you gotta do something different, man. You gotta do something you gotta spice it up. This is the point light. I don't need the point light. I don't need the point light. There's a sunlight, and then we need this config, because I think this is the big thing that's important. This is what's gonna load the shadow map, so that we can have this shadow effect. This cast shadows be projected or rendered onto the environment. Cozy light settings. Yep, we have the instance for this. We have the sunlight it's referencing, which should now be changed, but we'll deal with that later. And this should be like an abrupt change, honestly. Yeah, there's no way to interpolate it. Ooh, this is gonna be funky. So this is gonna be something we do sparingly for only specific occasions. Environment shadow color, yep. We have all these configurations for lighting. All these different configurations for lighting. And we have our point light buffer size, which by the way, we're gonna change that at some point. I almost feel inclined to do that right now before I start breaking stuff, because this sunlight thing we're gonna do is gonna be weird in its own right. I feel like revising our lighting pipeline is gonna be not as crazy as we may think. Yeah, CC light model. The cozy cabin light model. It's 2 a.m. or what is it right now? It's about 3:41 a.m. So I have like maybe 30 more minutes or an hour. And then I have to like take a little nap before going back to work or going to work. C#, yeah, it's C#. Was because the contrast was easier on the eyes for users before LEDs and OLEDs. Oh, that's good to know, Dev. Thank you. Like this. Can you please give hints? Yeah, if you're talking about this motion where I can just navigate things quickly, just search up Vim, and then if you like this window management movement stuff, search up i3. So we have our data for our light sources here. Like we have this fixed buffer size for all our lights here. Define point buffer 32, and then we have this point positions buffer, and then we have our colors, intensities, all that kind of stuff in radii. I feel like we should encode data a little bit differently. I think instead of having this be a point buffer, it should just be a light buffer. And we should pack these into like a float 2 or float 4. So we can have extra additional data packed into it. And maybe like an enum type for like the different types of light sources. So we have like int point buffer, and this guy would be light. Yep, that's me. Do you code every day for 4 hours? Are you trying to have a game side hustle? I just like making this game. Like eventually it'll be cool for this game to generate some money or something, but I'm just making this for the love of the game, man. For the love of coding. I do a bunch of coding projects just for fun on my side time. Like I really do enjoy programming. So yeah, it's just something I do. Whether it be recreationally or on stream or what have you. It's sick, man. Coding is sick, dude. And I kind of want to become a wizard one day, man. That monitor is prehistoric. Yeah, that's how we love it. Classic less sleep time of programmers. Why I do biphasic. I sleep, so I work, right? And after work, I sleep. And then after I sleep, there's this time where I disconnect from work and I work out problems in my brain, and I wake up and I can start doing this stuff. And I do this stuff for how many hours I want to do, and then I go back to sleep, a few more hours, and then I go to work. And that's how we operate. Not always. I kind of switch between biphasic and monophasic depending on what's happening. I'm going to Puerto Rico next week, so I'm going to be streaming, and sadly we're not going to have this set up there, but we're going to have nature, which may or may not be a pro or con. Yeah, my sleep schedule might change because of that, but that's kind of how I keep things. Time to, hey, that's what I talk about, man. How can I be like you? Hey, brother, you just gotta grind. You gotta do some work. The stream is doing better, way better than yesterday. That's crazy. I was kind of half expecting today to be like, all right, the algorithm chosen yesterday, and today we're back to my regular 3 or 4 people, which, hey, I'm not mad about that either, guys. Like Morgan, Kieran, all you guys, Terrell, SFM2, my OGs who kept me company during those days. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised that there's quite a number of people here. It's kind of crazy. On Linux with i3 Window Manager, I think, yep, that's what I'm doing. i3 Window Manager, Linux. Also, did someone join the Discord? Which, by the way, guys, we have a Discord. I'm going to start posting stuff there more regularly, since there seems to be more interest. And hey, it's good to see you. Let's go. Let's go. My boy. But yeah, i3 Window Manager. That's all you need in life. Oh, before I do these changes though, because we're gonna break things today. Today's gonna be a type of day where we break stuff, and it's fine. But I would like to at least save my progress because we did do some sizable things before, and then we're gonna break our lighting model in the name of optimizations, performance. Yeah, I have a day job, and then I have my own game studio called Cozy Cabin Games, which, by the way, I think one of these days it'd be kind of cool to do a Y2K website building day, because I made like a TypeScript framework to do this effect of have like the website be responsive and, you know, react to all my mouse clicks and everything. And it was cool. Again, this is one of those things where we do something weird, different, just to try to get some new knowledge. In this case, I wanted to do TypeScript, learn about NPM, that kind of thing. But I really want to go. I want to, like, this is cool, but I want to have a Y2K feeling website and have more information there. Like I'm gonna show you a website, guys. We're gonna show you peak web development. Okay, this is peak web development. All right, this is what modern websites should be like. So I would like to redesign the Cozy Cabin website to be even 10%, to have 10% of this aura. So we're gonna one day we're gonna learn HTML, some good old CSS. We're just gonna get our hands a little bit dirty, become a web developer, dude. Oh my goodness, so many friends. Welcome aboard. Yeah, Sloopy, good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome aboard. But yeah, we're gonna become a web developer. We're gonna have a day where we say performance. Nah. Data structures and stuff like that. Nah. How about some CSS, dog? How about some divs? Distros don't matter. I hope that's the case. I started learning Python and learned the very basics of it. How should I move forward in learning it further? Everyone says to start projects, but I don't know how. What should I do? Well, I guess the question is, like, what do you want to do? That's probably not what you want to hear. But that's usually kind of the big motivator for me, is usually before I say I want to get better at a language, I'm like, I already have a project in mind. But if you don't have a project in mind, you could always do the stuff of like retreading paths people have done before. Like what are some cool things people have done with Python? I know there's a guy named Fluffy Potato who does a lot of cool game dev stuff in Python. So you go, okay, maybe try, what are some things he's done, and can I try recreating some of that? And maybe from there, that becomes your jumping off board into figuring out, all right, like how do I architect this stuff? How do I do architecture in Python? Or maybe you go different and go, hey, maybe my intersection of interest is I like Python, or I want to get better at Python, and I like doing 3D modeling. There's some applications like Blender, I believe, that use Python for a lot of their scripting logic. So, okay, what can I do with that? Maybe I could do some cool auto generation thing to create a bunch of objects, or maybe create a custom node. You can always go on GitHub browsing projects. Oh my goodness. How many of you all? Oh my goodness, so many people. Yo, what's going on? Hey, yo. I need to make some new icons for emotes for the Discord. I might something else. Yeah, go for it. Feel free to hit me up for if you have questions, or I don't know, like if in general I'm pretty responsive on Discord. I try to be very responsive. But if not, like if you have like, I can make a section here for questions and stuff. Actually, we have one here. Yeah, and in fact, we had a stream a while ago where this guy named Zeskos had some performance issue with his game, and I literally just downloaded his game and like we profiled it, and we actually I proposed like an architectural solution to it, and it actually worked out. I'm not saying I'm gonna do that with people in general, but like I'm usually like to be available for helping. So if you have programming questions, feel free to hit me up in the Discord. And maybe a new role for you. Probably, I think I'm like this. I don't know. We'll figure this Discord stuff out. But yeah. Okay, we pushed our progress. We're going to start breaking things. It's time to start breaking things. So we're going to get rid of these data fields. We're going to keep this. We're going to change this from point to, I guess, position. They're all going to have a position. We're going to have one point to define each light source. So that's cool. I think that's fine as is. And what do you learn versus apply coding? Do you only code on stream or learn at other times? All the time. Off stream, I like coding. There's a bunch of personal projects I have just for cool, different just applications for fun. I'm working on one right now to do like a ASCII engine so that, because right now I have right now like I have to go through the interface and it's fine, and I can access things like Ranger or HTOP or whatnot through this, and it's cool. One little project I'm doing is just doing is making a little ASCII interface myself. Also, I like Astro too. Astros are really cool. Really, it's not working? Do I have to go here? Yeah, this is cool too. I love seeing cool terminal things like this. So I kind of want to make a UI that's kind of like the PlayStation 1 but in ASCII, where I can just do some basic things I do very frequently in terminals. Yeah, there's always so much cool stuff, dude. Start with engines. No need to reinvent the wheel. Writing your own engine via language is an undertaking. Not usually worth it for most games. Yeah, usually you do it because you have an ideology. Like my engine is because the reason I'm making an engine is partially due to like my own ideology about what peak performance looks like, and also just being independent. But like, I'm not a publisher. I'm not working for a publisher. I'm not relying on making this game for a commercial. I'm gonna sell it eventually, but I'm not gonna live or die based off of that. So I have the luxury of just not caring and being able to pursue this engine vendetta. But for most applications, you should start with engines. In fact, you should start with engines, because when you work with engines, you're going to start seeing how they solve certain problems. First, you're going to get exposed to certain ideas in a very easy capacity. And once you get used to things like even how you do shaders in Unity, right? That stuff starts trickling down into engines. Like engines are going to be taking that knowledge and just going even deeper with it. But there's something cool about just making a thing move with just pure C++. Like maybe not even making a game, just making a simple thing. 1 second. Ew, I'm using this mouse. What am I doing? What am I doing? Actually, why is it saying sign in? That's weird. Hey, welcome aboard. But yeah, so refactoring this light data, we're getting rid of... So how are we going to pack data here? We have to make some decisions about how we're going to pack data. In fact, we're going to do a float for this. So we're going to have to define the different types of data type we're going to have be supported by this field and encode it into it. So we have the point light, that's simple. Then we have this line light, or let's start with some basic ones. Cone lights, the line one I want to do. And point is going to be very simple in terms of how X and Y are going to be defined. In fact, we're going to make a little template for this because we have to define this for every single one. So we're going to have X, Y, Z, and then W. Yoink these guys, put them here, that should be good, and we can start defining some of this stuff. I don't know why you're wrong. That's easy to fix. Gotta go. Hey, but it's good to see you. I hope you do well, right? I'm doing HTML's course. Pretty cool so far. Hey, HTML is pretty sick, man. I'm a beginner. I started learning Java in August. What advice can you give me? I want to make my own app or game. Just do it. That's not helpful. That's not very helpful. So let me actually give you some better help. What I'm about to give you is kind of, I feel conflicted about it. Because on the one hand, it's important you learn this stuff because you're going to need it professionally and it's going to give you options for solving problems when you start architecting your game. On the other hand, though, there exists this thing of overuse as well. No matter what in life, you're probably going to have to go through the extreme of not using it to overusing it to then like finding just when to use it. I guess the antidote to this is a video I'll showcase to you later to help you better kind of assess the pros and cons of it. But whenever I mentor students, I always kind of recommend these two books. There's like design patterns for reusable object-oriented software. Super important. The second one is clean architecture. Hi. I'm going to work today. I slept a lot though. So those two books are helpful. Elements of reusable object-oriented software is going to give you a bunch of different design patterns for object-oriented code. You're working in Java, so very much applicable there. In fact, I think some of this is used for C++, but these ideas to translate. So that's pretty good to know. The second one is just clean architecture. It gives you some insight into like, all right, what is solid? What are these principles that are considered clean architecture? And, when should you break things up, that kind of sort of thing. So like I said, I recommend this with like a grain of salt because there is such a thing as overuse. And this is kind of meant for professional capacities where you're working with other people. A lot of times if you're working on your own individual thing, you don't have to apply a lot of this stuff. But I think it's helpful to be aware of it. And maybe if you come across a problem where it's like, hey, I need to do, like, let's say, undo, redo. I'm writing an application that needs to do that kind of stuff. Maybe there's a design pattern for that. Or, hey, this code is really chugging a lot because there's a lot of instances. How can I improve in some cases on one level? But the antidote to like this is a video by Casey Moratori called Clean Code, Bad Performance. it kind of puts into perspective how some of these principles may not actually be good, and or some of these principles aren't good to apply everywhere, and how there's pros and cons and trade-offs to it. So yeah, it's important that you're aware of it, but it's important to make sure you don't use it, like, you know when to use it. And you're just gonna have to go through life, like, you're just gonna have to actually go through applying this stuff and realizing, oh, maybe I just did too much here. Description: do you make your own game assets? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do make my own game assets. Pixel art, the 3D, the music, everything I do myself. It's pretty fun, man. Intensities and radii. Okay, so that's what this encodes. So this encodes intensity, and this is going to encode radii, or the radius. And then these are not NA. They don't apply. They don't do anything. For cone, we have to think about that. For light, this is going to be a weird one. This is going to be a weird one. And then what other light sources exist in Unity, or that I want to have? I think these might be just fine enough. Honestly, I feel more inclined to have light line be indicated by point n.x. I just have it be 2 lines, or 2 points instead of 1, and then a width and orientation. So this is going to be the first point, and this is going to be the end point, and then this will be intensity, is what I'm thinking. I think that should be fine. Clean architecture and design patterns for object-oriented programming. You got it, Isaac. Do you understand all these calculations like IK for legs or tangential accelerations and such? For me, physics formulas in Unity are the most difficult thing, and I don't know how to figure them out. Well, I don't really do physics very often in Unity, because, like, a lot of times in games, like, unless you're doing a physics-based game, it might be required. But a lot of times I'm actually not doing it, because, like, for my player controller, right? Like, for the kind of movement we want to have, a lot of it, we're not using impulses or anything, because, or any angular velocity, because for this type of thing, you kind of want to emulate this very tight arcadey stuff, so you end up having velocities being set directly, and any kind of deceleration or acceleration is being done through lerping to mimic friction coefficients within surfaces. So I think even for, like, the player, if we go to the, no, it's a player camera control. I want to go to the player. Yeah, player right here. And then is there the idle function? Yeah, here. Like, we mimic friction just by, like, lerping. But there's different types of games where you need to know that stuff. I never really have to do it too often, so my knowledge of it is not that great. Like, I know there's things that exist, like Lagrangians and Hamiltonian ways of calculating stuff versus the Newtonian way of doing things, and sometimes there's implications into the game, because sometimes it's better for you to do it manually versus using Unity's physics rigid body for different reasons. But I'm not really that knowledgeable about it. And it really depends on the game type of game you're making, because, like, driving games are going to have a different types of physics computation and faking it as well, because you're never really going to do super accurate stuff unless you're doing sim things. But usually, like, you're actually taking some basic ideas of reality and then distorting it for a good game feel. There's, like, a whole implementing car racing physics talk. Where is it? There's a great talk about it. If I can find it, I'll post it in the Discord. It was a really great talk. that explains like the basic mechanics of it, and then where you take liberties from a programmer implementation perspective. But hey Isaac, good to see you in there. Oh my goodness, I got a follow on Twitch. Thank you. I'm not even streaming to Twitch right now. I'm only doing YouTube. That's crazy. But yeah, but I'm not super knowledgeable about it. I plan to get to JavaScript as my main programming language, but I don't understand the computer and a lot of this, and what should I do or learn before starting coding. I love the old school setup, enjoying your live all the way from South Africa. Oh my goodness, it's from South Africa. Let's go. Sub, thank you, I appreciate it. Hopefully this information is helpful to y'all. But as for your question, before I even recommend anything, like, are you in a position, like, where are you? Are you in high school, college? Like, where are we starting from? Are you in neither? That influences stuff. From there, I don't know how to there's like what universities or schools would probably recommend, and then there's what I like to recommend. But it may not be the best, because it's gonna be, it's two options. There's one that's a bit harder, but your foundations are gonna be super strong, and it's gonna be such a big benefit for you long term in your career. And this option is like just learning C and doing some basic stuff in there. Super basic stuff. You're not gonna be able to do crazy things, but you're able to do some stuff. There's this option, right? Learn C and then try doing some basic stuff. But if you wanna see some more visual stuff and you wanna interact with things, and you said you wanna do JavaScript, if you're interested in games, honestly, I might recommend something like GameMaker Studio. It's not JavaScript. It uses something called GML, but it's very similar. They're both dynamically typed languages. I'm going to tell you something, though. I think if you want to compromise here, I'm okay. You don't have to do GameMaker. If you really want to do JavaScript for whatever reason, I wonder like what your motivation is for that. You can always try things like Tree.js or I think 3.js and other JavaScript libraries that let you do visual things really cool and very fast. To get exposed to like using JavaScript but doing some cool, interesting visual stuff with it. The compromise, though, is that I would say start with some C. Just learn some C. Learn the basics. Learn what a data type is. Learn what a struct is. Learn what these things are. You know, do some basic operations. Not just like Hello World, but maybe try making... I always go for an ASCII game, but maybe a choose your own adventure game. Or super simple choose your own adventure game. Like, don't even make it very complicated or anything. Just... 2 options. Maybe the game only has like 4 choices or 3 choices, whatever. I think that will be a great place to start if you're starting from scratch. Because there's things like JavaScript and Python that they hide from you that you're not aware of that kind of sucks. And it's usually hard. It's easier to go from C to JavaScript versus JavaScript to C. So that's my my super biased take. Okay, so that means I don't need to be too worried about it. Thanks. I'm not sure what you're responding to, but I hope I gave you some good info. I'm a college second year. Sick Marduk. Are you any good at C++? I have an engine I'm working on in C++, but I can't say I'm really good at C++. I don't use a lot of their main features. Sadly, I do not. Or actually, not sadly. For my own mental well-being, I don't use a lot of their advanced stuff. Yeah. Oh, you know what I could do? because these are fixed indices, I could just do... This is a weird, like, we're making our own language kind of thing. So for point, we can define this as 0. That's a 0 data type. And then we're going to do another define called radius. And this would be like position. We get like light data here, right? And then we do dot, and then we could just do yeah, like map it to the actual value. Like in a weird way that actually kind of works. So now I can go down here and I can just do light data dot radius, and that should just work. Oh wait. Light data, index into it, and then radius, and that should just work. Yeah, buddy, that's what I'm talking about. Your favorite book that you read about programming that helped you a lot? There's the two I mentioned earlier, Principles of Reusable Object-Oriented Programming, gets you exposed to some ideas. I don't know. There's this book called The Pragmatic Programmer. I know a lot of people like it. I don't know. I don't feel like I got that much from it. I feel like most of the things I got of value of programming really comes from just an experience, or documentation. Weirdly enough, like documentation gives way more insight than most books, if I'm gonna be honest with you. There's some books I'm interested. There's a book about architecture made by a guy from Naughty Dog, which I've been wanting to read, and there's one for how to implement physically based rendering, which is cool. But beyond that, I haven't done too much. Like I've done reading, it's just not. Oh, you know what? There is a good book, but it's not even really programming based. It's more about the communication aspect of programming, called The Mythical Man Month. Any kind of project management you've seen for software is based off that book, and there's a lot of cool ideas from that book that I just reference a lot because I don't know, I just find it to be very applicable in a lot of cases and scenarios. I'm using Writer. Love the vibes. I'm rewriting my lighting my lighting renderer, because we're not using Unity's lighting renderer at all. We're using our own, and the way it worked before looked fine, but we only supported point lights. So now we're updating this to support much more than that, to support a variety of different types of light sources. And this may or may not be a terrible decision. If I'm gonna be honest with you, may or may not be a terrible bad choice we made, but I felt like I wanted to do it. I felt like it was warranted, and as a result, here we are. And I don't think anything's gonna be rendering properly in the game now. The Mythical Man Month. Let me get the book. 1 second. Oh, where are you? I know I had you somewhere. 1 second, guys. I know I have it here somewhere. I cannot find it, actually. That's a little tragic. It's one of my favorite go-tos. Maybe under here? Nope, just a bunch of papers, but not. 1 second. One last place to check. Yeah, no. I don't see it here, tragically. So I guess you just have to take my word for it. I have it somewhere. But yeah, it's called The Mythical Man Month. Good read. Oh, okay. Sorry, we're turning into a book club. Another good book for people who want to be game devs and don't know about the business aspects or the planning or you know, the intellectual property or legal stuff. There's this book called The Game Dev Business Handbook. Super duper recommend it. This is more for independent developers. And there's also a companion book about budgeting as well. Super handy. Not much in terms of actual coding stuff. What game am I developing? I'm developing... Okay, I've broken rendering, so I'm going to have to show you clips from the... Hey, welcome aboard. I'll show you a clip here. From down here. Oh, we have the boss battle thing here. Wait, do I have the better version of the boss battle? Yeah, I do. Is there music? Yeah, so this is a game we're making. Oh yeah, this has a cinematic too, yeah. But yeah, but right now I'm revisiting the lighting because we decided to do things the weird way, in the cool way, and now we're making it more powerful, and that means I have to break stuff to make that happen because all our shaders are gonna be done. Helpful, thanks. I'm glad, Iron. But yeah, that's the answer to what I'm doing. Cozy. There's this cozy light settings, but I'm not sure if this... Oh, this does populate the data fields. Okay, cool. And we have our registering our point light, unregistered point lights, update point lights. Okay, so we're gonna have to change this. Because it's no longer registering a point light, it's like... We have to just register a light in general. And yeah, so this is no bueno in a certain way because we have all this data here, point intensity, radii, that are structured differently than how it is in the back end or in the shader. So we're gonna have to I'm probably gonna merge these into a vector 4 or float 4, and then we're gonna make this not point specific, but just be a general light thing, and then have everything generate the values needed for this. No, I'm just using regular old. Well, I'm using OpenGL for this, and then WebGL for builds, and then I don't know, whatever Unity compiles to. But I'm not using it natively for this. I'm using OpenGL for my own engine, but not for this directly. I love the theme, the 2D and 3D, but you don't think that it's so flat. I like it. There's also some cool lighting effects I'm doing to make it feel a little bit more 2D, but I don't know. It feels different. I enjoy it. I've always been a 2D kind of guy. Yeah, so we have to merge this all into one unified thing. We have to have a private int array of probably enum actually. In fact, we have to have these enums on both the GPU and CPU side. So you have point, we have cone, and we have a line. to Java based on an OP. Yeah, OOP style. Yeah. C# has some cool functional programming stuff too. That they pull from F#, which is pretty rad. Point intensities. Do I even need to have? Because intensity is a very universal concept for everything that we're rendering. So maybe we shouldn't have intensities be. I think we should still have a float for intensities actually. Yeah, I think we're gonna keep the intensities. That way this frees up more data should the need arise. So this would just become radius. Get rid of this. Radius becomes X, get rid of that. This is gonna get broken, but that's fine because now we have intensities again. And that feels less implicit. Did I call it point intensities? Yeah, this should just be intensities now. There we go. Now we can go back here. We have our separate field for this, and then instead of radii, we're gonna change this to a float 4, or I think it has to be a vector 4 to pass to the GPU. And then we're gonna change this guy to data. And this should be also a vector 4. Put at ended line. What's attended line? What about here or here? Is there some arcane knowledge I should learn about? We should also have this point lights be factored into this light culling system, because like there's only ever really going to be a certain number of lights in a room. Point positions. Change this bad boy to positions. And then just colors. You also have to change all the cached references, but that's okay. Yeah, things are broken here because now we're not using this. We might have to, some OP time, we might have to add like a little, maybe strategy pattern or something. Thank you, Rob. You do prefix private variables with end caps on each word for public variables. Why not regular camel case for both? You do private prefix variables with end caps on each word for public variables. Is it a public variable? Doing this on? These are static. I'm trying to understand. You do prefix private variables with end caps on each word for public variables. So why not regular? Oh, so you're asking why I don't do the same thing for both? I like just having visually knowing what at a glance if a field's private or public. I think having this different naming rules for this versus this just makes it easy for me. At a glance, I know what I'm dealing with. That's pretty much the TLDR for me. It's a nice way to like when I'm working implementing stuff to know what's being actually exposed. Like here I know this stuff is not being exposed, whereas other things are being exposed. At least these shouldn't be exposed. This is S instance. Yeah, these are private. And then the S prefix for global. This is wrong though. This should be I. But I might get rid of this. I don't know. That's C#'s naming convention. Don't know about public variables though. It's a little bit like that. There's some differences that I do compared to C#'s, but that's fine. The one I really need to nail down is my naming convention for this, because this feels wrong. These are like global variables, and yet I'm prefixing them like this. Like, this is dumb, honestly. I think if I'm gonna do the prefix, I should add like an S or a G to indicate, yeah, this is a shader's global variable. But yeah. Physics exam tomorrow. Thanks for the tips. Hey, of course, anytime, man. Good luck on your physics exam. And what am I building? I'm building a game. This game here. And specifically what I'm doing is just changing the lighting model to support multiple types of light sources. So that's a big thing we're doing right now. What time is it right now, actually? It's 4:25. Yeah, we're good. I think I have to go here for a little bit longer, and then I have to hop off and get some Z's before I go to work for today. But yeah, we're gonna have to do something here. Either some kind of like strategy pattern, like some kind of abstraction, or just have a bunch of different signatures that are overloads. Like, what's stored in this point light config? Because honestly, yeah, no, we can just make this be one general thing. That's what we can do. No abstraction needed. Point light data. You're giving me a dialogue here for some reason. Yeah, I don't care. Do the thing. I don't care. Should add. No, don't add. Yeah, don't add. I don't care. Break stuff. I like broken things. Public enum light type. I like it. It's cleaner. Yep. Yeah, I'm on YouTube right now. Which distro? Which distro are you using? Ubuntu. Simple old Ubuntu plus i3. It's good enough to do the things I need her to do. And then, you know what? We're gonna do something that's kind of Rust-like. We're gonna do like instead of using a constructor, we're gonna do a public static builder point light data. God is good. Let's go. And we're gonna call this point. So we're gonna have one for creating point light data and knowing how to encode it correctly. Change this to data. Make this guy a vector 4. And then we're gonna have other ones for the other data types, like when we support, for example, the cone and light line ones. We're just gonna have this here. But we're not gonna implement it yet. That's gonna be later. So we're gonna throw a not implemented exception. Do the same thing over here. This guy we actually have to implement. That's gonna be pretty easy. To add formally serialized, but no one ever closes it for forever, and no one chooses yes. Yep. On YouTube. Oh yeah, Cozy Cabin. I'm just using Cozy Cabin Games. That's what I use for everything. I'm using Unity, by the way, Patrick. As only for fields, not types, though. Yeah, it's for fields, but when you change, so like when I change the name of this, there's fields that exist that are using this data type. So it's referring to those fields that are using this data type as a serialized property. And we just say no to that. We say, nah, let things be broken. I'll deal with it. That's why we have Git, right? We have Git for a reason. Or actually, we could do this. And then what is this gonna need? Probably need the basic stuff. Color, intensity, we could assume type. Oops. We're going to construct the data there. We just need a float for radius. And then finally position. Change the name of those fields. Does renaming the type also? Yeah, it changes the. So that's what it does. It tries to auto rename the fields if they have the name of the type in there. Is that, bro? Make me a 5M script. What's a 5M script? Yeah, we dig Linux, man. Linux is great. Why use a CRT monitor, man? Because it's great. It's elite. We have to reject. We're too spoiled, all right? 144 hertz, 8K, 4K. Brother, that's too much, man. Bro, I just need like 4 pixels and like maybe 15 FPS and we're good to go, man. That's all we need in life. Everything else is bloat. Everything else is a distraction. This is peak. What you coding? I'm refactoring our lighting model system so we can have more, I have my own lighting pipeline and we just want to have more options. So we're breaking stuff to make it better. That's the TLDR gist. And we're just going to be putting radius as the first field. Everything else doesn't matter. And then position equals position. That doesn't, not too important. And then we're going to have some things broken somewhere, and that's fine. We'll change those APIs as we need to. And now, instead of registering point light, we just register light. We have this point light data, and we can unpack it the way it needs to be unpacked. Perfect. It works in our data here. And then we have these cache properties that we need to update as well. So we're going to bring these bad boys down here. This is for the sun. Here's one for the lights. You seem to use IntelliJ and, well, I'm mostly using Rider. I never actually use IntelliJ, but I definitely like JetBrains products. Rider and C-Line are awesome. Super helpful. I used to enjoy using LunarVim as well. But, yeah, I'm not using Rust that much as of late. Yeah, we're gonna just break everything so we can know exactly what needs to be fixed. And I'm pretty sure that we named this light data, so no, we have to light data. And then, typo. How unprofessional. Okay, we just fix things and life is gonna get good. So there's no longer a float array, this is a vector array now. And this is gonna be S data. Sweet. Rider. That's the ID I'm using. And we should explicitly make this 0, 1. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to rename it like that. But I like being very explicit about my typings. And then we should also make sure we do the same thing here. Oh, I have it backwards. So other things in the code are going to be broken. I can guarantee you that. Let's go find where they're broken though. And hopefully it's not bad. I think it's just going to be, what? Cozy point light that's broken? Yep. And this is going to be easy. We just do... What do we do? Huh. Oh, it's a serialized property. We do this in the we do this in the inspector. Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be weird. I might have to write a custom inspector for this. So that we can populate the data correctly, so it's easy. You can set this in inspector, but under the hood we're going to pack the data into here the way we want it to. Because radius is coming from what? Where do we derive radius from? Is just a field in here. Okay, cool. We're gonna have to do something with that. You switch from Rust for your engine because of how Rust works. Is Rust that different from C++ aside from safety? It's fundamentally very different. I mean, if you do unsafe Rust, it gets closer to C++. There's still some fundamental differences. Like you don't have... I mean, it's not a big... hopefully you're not doing this, but in C++ you have like multiple inheritance. That's a thing you could do. But Rust, you don't really have that. You can composite things with traits, but it's not... you can't do like super nesting things. You just end up kind of compositing stuff. If you're doing somewhat safe stuff, Rust, then like... And if you're doing like modern C++, there's going to be modern equivalents. Like you have unique pointer or shared references and whatnot. But Rust is just so much more verbose for the same kind of thing you're going to be doing. Like for something simple in C++ is like a unique pointer. In Rust, you end up having like... like you end up having like... like a ref... RC, mutex, refcell, like these nested nested like generics you have for stuff just to be able to do something basic. So you might end up arc, you might have a mutex, and you might have like a refcell or something. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Can't remember how exactly it work. And then you have your actual data type here. You know, like cozy whatever, like your data whatever. And like so much of your code becomes that, and then to access these things, it's so much of like, all right, data dot copy dot lock dot like all this stuff, or no, clone. My bad. We don't copy, we clone. Copy is something distinctly different. It's like it's just so much you end up having with this big nested stuff just to do a simple like even a node structure, you end up having to do this crazy nesting thing, which is like a big annoyance. Now I understand it, like if you're trying to guarantee compile time safety, but like there's times where you don't want to have, or you don't need it, or you actually it's bad because you end up, if you're making something that needs to be very cache coherent, then guess what? C# or Rust doesn't allow it, at least in the normal kind of way. At most, you end up using other people's packages to do stuff like Rust arenas to get something similar, but it's very different. It's very different. And then you start defeating the whole point of the language. The whole point of it's safety, but if you're getting rid of all the safety stuff, then it's like, brother, what? Like, why did we do Rust in the first place? And then there's no, like, you can't do static. Like you have to use a package to get static. To like have static classes or things like that. So it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I don't hate Rust. In fact, I probably would still use Rust. And honestly, I kind of still like Rust more than Odin. Because I feel like at least the decisions of Rust are made from a fundamental ideology that's driving the language. So if I don't like it, it's because it's a fundamental ideology. But these choices are all informed based off that. And that makes sense. And if you buy into it, then all right, cool, all these things make sense and they work as intended to. Whereas other languages feel like it's just a bunch of random things that are just kind of tacked on because that's just what the person wanted. And it's sick that a guy can make a language that caters to what he likes, but there's no central like thesis that's kind of driving it. So if their choices don't align with your choices, it feels you get added friction. But yeah, it's a whole tangent. Okay, we've broken the game rendering officially, I believe. So I think this is a great place to stop for today. Thank you guys for usually I like stopping when we have something achieved, but I think we've essentially just broken stuff, and we're gonna have to write a custom inspector, which isn't that crazy, but I already know when you do custom inspector stuff, things get weird. Things just get weird and wacky, and data doesn't get serialized when you expect it to or when you want it to, and that's like a whole thing. And there's no point to having these static functions because they're not going to do what you want it to. And so there's some decisions I have to make in terms of how I go about this, because we may just have to do like a abstract. To not use a custom inspector, I'll probably have to do like a one level of abstraction just to have things behave in a somewhat unified way. Or you have a struct for each type of light, and then each has like its own interface, single function called like data, that it packs this data format into here, and then we can work from it. I don't know. I'm gonna sleep on it. Anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate your company. Hopefully you enjoyed, and for all the new people in the Discord, thanks for joining, everyone. And yeah, thanks for joining. I'm assuming people are gonna be asking questions and stuff, so programmer tech support will happen at some point. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully we'll have some more progress to show you guys, and